Hey, coming up on River Talk today, we're going to talk about education from a businessman's point of view. That and more. A River Talk you want to see next. Well, hello there. Welcome to River Talk. We always like to talk politics. Seems like I'm always going to the polls for something. And in July, we get to go to the polls if you're an Horry County voter and vote for a new council, well, actually the school board chair, Horry County School Board. And I think it might be one of the largest school boards in the state because it's a county-wide.
Third largest.
It's huge. You start driving out there, it's incredible. Some towns have 3 or 4 school districts in their towns. So Ken Richardson, good to see you.
Thank you, Jack.
We ran into each other the other day, and for the life of me, I can't put my finger on it.
I haven't been. I've been doing a lot of traveling the last 2 weeks, so I can't remember where I saw you, but I know I did see you somewhere.
Yeah. Well, good to see you.
Yeah, but we go back a long ways.
We've been around. I've been around here since 1989, and you were here way before that.
Oh yeah, I'm from here. Been here my whole life. And kind of started on a farm over there in Ainer, in the Dog Bluff section. Mm-hmm. And you know the old saying, if you come up on a tobacco farm, if you ever get off of it, you don't ever want to go back.
No, you don't. That defines character, though, if you're out there.
Well, yeah, I was fortunate enough that when I got a little older, we moved into Conway, and when I was 8 years old, I started my first peanut route in Conway. You know, we used to put our peanut baskets on the handlebars and ride around town, and everybody had little signed areas, and I had the old tobacco warehouses up in Conway, and what everybody refers to now as the peanut warehouse. At that time it was a tobacco warehouse. And in fact, it was just 2 weeks ago I gave a speech there, and I thought about it that night that you know, 50 years ago I was selling boiled peanuts on the porch of that tobacco warehouse, and you know, 50 years later I'm giving a speach there.
That's neat, isn't it?
It is, and politics is, you know, something that I don't. I'm a newcomer to it. I'm not really a politician. I guess you'd call me an outsider, but I do have a passion for education, and I do care about the children. I come up in the Horry County schools, and they've been good to me. Mm-hmm. And I've got 2 grandsons now. They're in the Horry County schools, and they're good to them. So I guess you would call it my passion.
Well, Horry County has changed a lot. Most folks will remember you from your days at Fowler Motors, with just a hop, skip, and a jump from where we are right here now today. Yeah,
that's true. Actually, that's a great thing that happened to me in my life, and it's an interesting thing. I was actually across the street. I was going to school at Horry Georgetown Tech, and I bumped into Mr. Fowler one day, and Mr. Fowler asked me. He said, "Boy, you about ready to go to work?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I am." And he asked me to come over and talk with him, and I did. And the very first day he hired me, he said, "Son, if you'll come here and you'll work hard and you'll do what you say you'll do and you'll be honest with people," he said, "you don't never have to look for another job." And that's the only job I ever had.
Wow. How many years were you there?
I was there for 42 years.
Okay.
And,
so did you start out as a salesman? What department?
I started as a salesman, and I was a salesman for about 5.5 years. Mm-hmm. And you know, I kind of always remember I started like on February the 16th, and February only had 28 days in it, but I was fortunate enough that it seemed like it just come natural to me, and I got Salesman of the Month, and I kind of got that for the next 60 months in a row. And
that's 5 years.
Yeah. So the next thing I know, they asked me to move into management. So I moved into sales manager, and I was there for a few years, and then moved into general manager, and then eventually bought part. Mr. Fowler and I became business partners. I bought part of the dealership from him, and then unfortunately he passed away. And when he passed away, I bought the remaining part of it from his estate, and made that my livelihood. But Horry County and the people of Horry County have been very good to me. I was blessed. I was the only car dealer in the United States that had Mercedes, BMW, and Cadillac under one roof.
Those are the 3 brands that, you know, that are the status cars.
Right.
I mean, you know,
right.
depending on where you grew up. I mean, for a farm boy, Cadillac style.
Yeah.
Even the song on the radio, Cadillac.
Yeah, I remember I was at a Cadillac meeting one time out in California, and my Mercedes rep was actually sitting side of me, and they were introducing some of the new product that was coming out, and they had I think Bono was the guest singer. We had him, or it was either him or Tina Turner, and it was a big event, and all this stuff was going on. And he looked over and he kind of tapped me on the knee, and he said, "This is a long ways from tobacco fields of Horry County, isn't it?" And I said, "Yeah, the good Lord's blessed me. He really has." And that's what I'm here about today. It's just trying to give something back to the community that's been so good to me.
Well, the business mindset, I think, is a requirement because when you think about, we're going to get into this because this falls in line with your vision. We're not talking small dollars. I mean, you got to be able to read spreadsheets. You
Right.
got to know what amortization means. You got to know what regulation means. And businessmen are equipped to deal with that because that's the thing that just falls behind the scene. Most people just look at you as the guy who sold cars, but there's a lot
Right.
going on to sell cars.
Well, you're right, Jack. It makes there's a lot of difference. You know, you're trying to run your business, and I know what it's like to have a payroll, to have to pay FICA, Social Security, matching workers' comp. I know what it's like to trying to stay small and stay under 50 employees, and then all of a sudden you realize, I just can't do it anymore. And then what it's like to take that jump going above 50 employees. When I sold out, I had 85 employees when I sold out.
Wow.
So we had made a big jump. And the same thing, I'm over at Horry Georgetown Tech. I've been on that board for 20 years.
Well, let's take a breather and come back and talk about that.
Sure.
And
Good.
find out how you got there.
Okay,
and
sounds
what
great.
that 12 years is like. Ken Richardson is our guest, and we'll have more with him as River Talk rolls on. Hey, we're back. Ken Richardson's our guest. He's been in the car business longer than I have. Someone said, "Where'd you get your gift of gab?" And my wife always says, "Well, he's the son of a car dealer." And I was like going, wait a second. A good salesman listens more than he talks.
Well,
And that's the same in my business.
Yeah.
today.
Same way with business. I mean, in business you have to be able to listen. And
You got to listen.
I had both of my children kind of working with me at the dealership when I eventually sold out. My son started in the wash rack, kind of worked himself through the dealership. My daughter, she took a different path. She went to law school and got her law degree and decided she wanted to come back into the dealership with me. But I tried to teach both of them. You got to be a good listener to be a good businessman.
Sure.
And a lot of times people, people just, they want to tell you what's going on. They want to vent sometimes, or they want to tell you if they might have an issue or something you need to hear, or if they're trying to buy a car, they might have a need, and they'll tell you what those needs are. And the same thing happens no matter where you are. I made the transition from being in the car business to being on the board at Horry Georgetown Technical College.
Well, we took a breather right before you get to that point. How'd that all come about? How'd that happen?
Well, Mr. Fowler, who was on the board at Horry Georgetown Technical College, Mr. Fowler, of course, he passed away, and I had a couple couple leaders and friends asked me to consider running for his seat, and I was a little hesitant because Mr. Fowler was like my security blanket, and it was kind of tough on me to lose him because he was like a father to me.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But when I lost him, I didn't know what it would be like losing him, trying to run the business on my own and trying to do things at Horry Georgetown Technical College. But he had been there, and I decided that I would make that run. And of course, that's my first time I've ever had to really do anything like that. And kind of got down. I think it was 7 or 8 people ran at the beginning, and of course at the end there, it kind of got down. There was 2 of us. I think I mentioned to you earlier, was Bob Grissom, who was the mayor of Myrtle Beach, who everybody loved, and me. And but I was fortunate enough to win that seat. And I tell Bob, and I cut up about it a little bit later. I said, "Well, Bob, you were lucky enough to have a highway named after you. All I got was a seat on the Horry Georgetown Technical College board." But But Horry Georgetown Tech has been good to me, and I think my business experience helped me when I went to Horry Georgetown Technical College, because same type thing, a lot of employees, in charge of a lot of money. I think at Horry at Fowler Motors, we did about a little over $50 million every year in sales. Horry Georgetown Technical College, our budget's a little over $75 million a year.
Right.
I just saw, being chairman over there, I oversaw $80 million worth of capital improvements here in the last few years.
Okay.
So those big numbers don't scare me. I'm used to dealing with it. And I've had, of course, on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, and I had someone on Facebook ask me the other day that what made me more qualified than a teacher. And I said, well, it's great that we've got people. Two of my opponents were teachers. And it's great to have people that have got an education background teaching. But the teachers in the Horry County schools, they've got enough on their plate now. They've got enough people looking over their shoulders and telling them what to do. I think the last thing they need is another teacher in there looking over their shoulder. What we need a businessman. We need somebody that can go in and make the tough decisions, make them, move on, and not be worried about the consequences of. You're going to make some bad decisions if you're a good businessman.
Yeah, sure.
I think
the key is to learn from them. A lot of times folks don't learn from the mistake they made. They keep making that same mistake. You learn.
Exactly. Donald Trump is a good example. He's just proven you don't have to be a politician. You can be a businessman. If he can run the country, I certainly think I can run the Horry County School Board.
The outsider mentality has proven to be a real winner, because I think people are just tired of the same old from both parties.
Well, they are tired. I'm tired. I'm a businessman, and I'm from Horry County, and I've got children and grandchildren running into that went to the Horry County schools. But I pay taxes too, and. If you pay taxes, I have some people tell me sometimes, well, I don't have any children in the school district. I said, well, you pay taxes, and a good portion of your tax dollars goes to the school board.
Sure.
And we need to be good stewards for that money. We need to know where that money is, how it's being spent, what we can do to look at ways to cut some of the expenses. Listen, there's so much money that comes in every year to the school board. And I want to try to find a way to better manage it. We've got staff, teachers, a lot of employees that haven't had decent pay raises in a long time. And I learned this when I was in business in the car dealership. You have to pay good to get good people.
Sure.
If you don't, your good people are going to leave you. I shared a video on Facebook yesterday. 30,000 teachers in Oklahoma walked off the job last year at one time. Just shut the whole system down.
Oklahoma's not where you would think that would happen.
That's right. Exactly. So if it can happen there, it can happen here.
Well, we're going to take a breather and key in on something you said just a second ago. Be a good steward, because I think that rings true to some of your upbringing and what you want to do. Because that's a phrase Grandma says. Sometimes on Sunday morning, got to be a good steward. So reach in there and put something into play. We'll be right back with more as River Talk rolls on with Ken Richardson. Hey, we're back. Ken Richardson's our guest. He has thrown his hat into the ring, and you were going to run for this position prior to the passing of Joe DeFeo.
Yes, I announced.
This isn't a Johnny-come-lately
decision.
No,
that was kind of funny how that worked out. I had planned to run, but I had made a commitment to Horry Georgetown Technical College. We were getting ready to replace the president. Our president was retiring, and I knew we had to go through a presidential search, and I had promised some people over there that I would not leave that board until we had a new president seated. So I kind of missed it like by 3 months because we picked a new president, and I'm proud to say that I was one of the ones that helped pick our first woman president at Horry Georgetown Technical College. And we got a great leader over there that I think is going to move us forward.
She's been there a while. She's been
she's paid her dues.
Component. Yeah.
She's Dr. Marilyn Ford. She's paid her dues, and I'm proud to say that I was one of the ones that helped elect her as the new president there. But it's a thing where I had made the decision to run, and I'm the kind of guy, if I decide I'm going to run, I want to go ahead and put my name out there and let people know. And I announced, and you know, I did not know Joe, to be honest with you. We only had 2 conversations with him. I've never met him in person. And I mean, what a tragic loss, because what I have actually found out since I've started running how much he meant to a lot of people. And the first time I spoke with him was right after I announced. He actually called me, and we talked on the phone, and when we hung up, we were kind of laughing and joking with each other, kind of cutting up a little bit about some things. And then, of course, the second time I talked to him, I called him, and that was when the school board made the decision to take the police officers out of the school. And I was kind of against that, and I was just a private citizen calling, and I called and told him, voiced my concerns about it, but you know, but they went the other way. But yeah, I had made the announcement that I was going to run, and I was committed to it, and you know, I was sitting there, you know, I thought I had 3 more years before I had to run for this seat, so I was just preparing. I was going to try to go to some of the board meetings, and I've watched pretty much all their videos of their board meetings for the last couple years, and so just trying to get myself familiar with what was, you know, my surroundings, what was going on. And I got a phone call one Thursday night. Actually, I got a text, and the next thing I know, my phone started blowing up. And the first text I got a text from a friend of mine that said, "Get ready," and I didn't know what he meant by "get ready." And then I started getting some phone calls, and I heard about Joe, and that's tragic. But you know, my vision is to run on the future. I don't want to really talk a lot about anything the school board's done in the past. I know there's been some hot issues with people, but I can't dwell on the past if I'm going to move it forward. I've got to be thinking about what I'm going to do from day one when I go on there. And I'm hoping that the voters of Horry County will see that I could be the best person for the job and elect me.
Well, a lot of folks probably going to say, well, he's got all of his experience with higher education, but there's a story that we recently heard about. Carolina Forest High School that just grew and exploded. Thousands and thousands of students there now. When that school was first built, they didn't have the funds to put in a football stadium. And, and you kind of help address that.
Yeah, well, that's one of those deals where, you know, sometimes you do things, you just do it to try to help people. You don't really do it for the recognition, but it did come back up. Someone mentioned it to me the other day, but when Carolina Forest started, if you remember, they only had like a JV program, and then they had to grow themselves into being a full-fledged high school, and but they didn't have the district had not set aside funds for the football stadium, so me and a couple of friends got together, there's 3 of us, and we asked just how much money they needed, and they told us what it would take to build a stadium. So the 3 of us went to the bank, borrowed the money, and built the stadium. And under the condition that, you know, when the school district got the money, they would just take over, reimburse us, and we would pay that loan off. And but you know, that's one of those things. We just trying to get the kids a place to play, to run track and play football and that type of stuff.
Well, what are you doing here because, you know, July 17th will be here before we know it. What are you doing up? What are you telling people? What are you saying?
I'm doing something I don't like to do. I used to have to do it in Columbia a lot when we were trying to go to Columbia to get money for the college over there. I'm begging. I'm asking people. You know, my election's a special.
That's a nice suit to start begging in.
Well,
though, buddy.
My election is a special election. It's in the middle of July. A lot of people are going to be on vacation, and there's only going to be 3 names on the ballot. So I've got to get people energized, and hopefully there's enough people out there energized and have the same vision that I do to make a change. It's time for a change, and when you know, there's no doubt there's going to be a change with Joe's untimely passing. There's no doubt that there's going to be a change with leadership. What I need to do is get people enthused enough that they're willing to get in the car in the middle of July on a hot day and drive to the polls and vote. But the great thing about that, after we've got a primary tomorrow, and after the primary, I'm going to really start politicking, and hopefully we can get people to understand that, you know, if you're going on vacation or you're going to be out of town, you can go down and absentee vote.
Sure.
So it's all going to be about voter turnout.
Voter turnout's going to be, that's a hard sell in July. You're right.
It is. It is.
That's the peak of tourist season and vacation season. So anyway, like you said, great line, and I'll definitely remember it the rest of this week for sure. If Donald Trump can run the country, you can certainly run the school board.
Thank you. I think I can, Jack.
Ken Richardson, thank you for your time.
Thank you too. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Fowler Motors, all those years, that was the man who kept those pretty cars on the lot. Hey, we'll be right back with more. Stay tuned. Well, believe it or not, folks, that's all the time we got on this edition of River Talk. Remember that special election, July 17th. Mark it on your calendar. I know Ken would certainly appreciate it. We certainly appreciate him coming by to see us today. Good catching up with him. I'll probably be seeing him all over the place in the next few weeks. He was already out politicking the other day when I saw him. We'll see you next time on River Talk. Till then, so long, everybody.